of the things I want to cover is engaging the audience. So you've got a few seconds, maybe minutes at the beginning to engage that audience and make them want to stay if it's on a trade show stand, or just to get them on side. Where do you start? What should be the first thing you say? Is it just your name and your job title, or can you open up a bit more than that?
Never start with yourself. That's trip number one. You always want to keep your focus from the very first word out of your mouth to the last on your audience and what they care about most. And the reality is they don't care about your job title. They don't care about your CV. They don't care about the company that you work for, even if they are a customer of that company or a partner of that company. You know what they care about? Themselves. And this is not a selfish thing. This is human nature. This is survival instinct. We have to look out for ourselves and what matters to us first from an evolutionary standpoint, long before we ever look at it from a corporate standpoint. So I always say begin with the audience. Never start by introducing yourself by your name, your job title, your company, your successes. Begin with them. You can get to yourself later. So that's trick number one. Trick number two is a acronym that you read in the book, PVFPVA, which stands for Prove Value First, Prove Value Always. Your audience needs to hear value to them come out of your mouth at the very beginning of your talk. And this is whether you are addressing one person in, say you're a pharmaceutical representative who has 2.5 minutes to chase a doctor down a hallway within a medical institution and try to convince them to purchase your pharmaceutical product or your piece of medical equipment. Whether you're doing that one-on-one in a speed situation or you have a 1-hour keynote in front of 20,000 people in an arena, you always want to open with value to the listener. Hook them right away by proving to them, I am here for your value, for your benefit, and you are going to walk away with so much value based on our time together. The first thing out of their mouth is that value. Prove value first. Then throughout your talk, however long it lasts, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes, you need to keep rehooking your audience again and again.
That's the next point. How do we keep those people engaged? We can't, if we start off high energy, you can't just be high energy all the time. You have to surely temper it.
You do. And by the way, I should mention, this is something that I do in my training programs, especially when I'm working with European groups or with Asian groups rather than American groups. I actually put a caveat at the beginning of the training that says, I am an American. My energy level is naturally quite high. In my case, it's even quite high for an American. You are not expected to be this high level of energy. Nobody has to be this energetic. It's just my standard status. It's where I live. But energy on its own is not an indicator of successful communication. Very quiet, very reserved people can be highly successful in communication, provided they connect with one another and provide value for the person they are speaking to. So in terms of maintaining high energy across a talk, it's not so much about that as it is about continuing to prove value across a talk. Even the most intelligent person in the room is going to start to either drift from the message or get distracted from the message and need to be brought back into it. And the best way you do that is to provide value for them again, or remind them of the initial value promise that you made to them. That's the prove value always part of PVFPVA. And there are a lot of opportunities throughout even the driest talk to reinsert value. And we mentioned some of them in the book. Anytime that you get a transition point between one big idea and another is an opportunity to stop. Don't just barrel forward with your next piece of content. Stop at the end of one idea and reconnect with your audience in a way that is valuable for them and gives them a moment to process. I like to do something like, all right, I've just shown you this particular capability that I promised you at the beginning would make your job or your life a whole lot simpler, save you money, shorten your mean time to resolution, reduce stress on your personnel, your staff, whatever it happens to be. Did you see the benefit? Can you imagine how you can start to put that into action for yourself starting today, based on the investment that you've already made? And now I move on to my next big idea. you can continually rehook people with value to them again and again and again, instead of just constantly barreling through series of numbers, KPIs, data lakes, and so forth.
Do you pick out people in the audience that are engaged and try and talk to them? I do that a lot.
I do love doing that, although, let me ask you this, Mark. Do you also do my favorite thing to do, which is find the least engaged person in the audience and make them your personal pet project?
No, I just leave them in the dust.
No, to hell with them. No, I do love to do that. I love to see, can I get that person back? The person who, so let's say I'm speaking to a group of 9 executives. And of those 9 executives, I've got 3 of them who I know are fully engaged. I've got 3 who hopefully will get engaged at some point when they hear the thing that sparks their interest. And I've got 3 of them who've decided to pick up their mobiles and, and answer that vital email while I'm speaking to them. I love those people with the mobiles. It's not me. Most of the time I know it's not me. They simply have incredibly busy lives. And every moment they spend speaking to me are 5 unanswered emails that make their life harder. I get it. But I love to see if I can create value for them, hook them in.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I noticed you do at Drupal, some way into the talk, was to say, we all hate so and so. How many people, something or other? Just raise your hand, just to get them to wake up, I guess. Yeah.
It's a great point, Mark. Querying your audience. I mentioned it earlier. How do you turn your lecture into a conversation? How do you make your audience a part of your story? The most important part of your story, because that's the reality. With what you and I are doing right now, I know I'm doing the bulk of the talking because you are interviewing me for your program. But the fact is, the star of this story is not me, and it's not you as the host. It's anybody who is watching your content right now. If you and I, are not being of value, if we're not serving the people who are watching your program at this moment, then we failed.